G'day YouTubers, and thank you for tuning in to what I presume to be kind of a bit of a summer video via YouTube. Of course, yes, it is of course the day of something very, very peculiarly saddening, of course. But yet again, that's what we all know. It's been like over 10 days and 11 days since the Queen's funeral, of course. But I actually just thought, without getting too emotional, I might as well just go ahead and grab the webcam, because obviously I might take a look at a couple of things to basically honour this moment of such, of such grief, because obviously, you know what I mean. I actually just thought, let's just do a very brief review, or else I'll be just cry out though, just to think on how saddening the Queen must have actually been. It's been a huge loss though, but I'll never forget the legacy, because obviously, I'm actually quite astonished of how much the Queen has actually done to the digging out this country, and I just thought, let's just go ahead and take a look at some of the other two things I've got at this video there, on this video that you're actually watching in this video that you're watching here so far, because obviously, obviously we can't get too emotional these days, because obviously the Queen's death is something, but we just don't have to think about it too much, because, well, we all remember her, don't we? Of course we do. But yes, in this video I actually just thought, let me just show you something quite peculiar. This unicorn toy, I can't really remember the name of it. I presume her name is Amethyst Star. Of course, yes, I did give her like diamonds on her body though, just to look like, oh, the unicorn just attacked me for some reason. How weird is that? Obviously the pony's name I think I've called her before was Amethyst Star. Or Amethyst Star. This is actually quite a very interesting name. It's got that tail at the back there, which looks kind of interesting to look at. But, it is actually quite nice to see. And there's the other side of her. She looks kind of sneaky by the looks of her face. On the other side is a much more docile looking face there, in the sense that this is basically Amethyst Star. And to put that into perspective, she actually looks very similar to the other unicorn I've made. Now, of course, when I made this unicorn, Amethyst Star, that actually took about 2 weeks to actually produce. Actually, about 3 weeks, in a sense. That was actually made just before the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And it actually, to put that in perspective, let me just go ahead and grab Lyra Heartstrings, because I definitely think she's the more similar pony. As a bit of a weird doppelganger effect, she looks very, very similar. And if I actually show it to you very closely, she looks drastically similar. And I mean, if you look at her this way, she looks completely and utterly similar. And of course, yes, whenever I look at this pony, she actually looks drastically similar. And I just thought, maybe do a slight comparison there. And of course, yes, what I've actually realised is that Amethyst Star is actually a little bit taller than Lyra Heartstrings herself, but nevertheless, from mane to tail, of course, yes, I've actually realised Amethyst Star is a little bit taller than Lyra, whereas Lyra's a little bit longer, in the sense that they look pretty much the same. I think Lyra Heartstrings seems to be a bit more of a taller pony, although I could definitely say they're pretty much about the same kind of size. But in terms of design-wise, I've got a funny feeling that from head to tail, or from like mane to tail, or from horn to tail, it's quite weird that Amethyst Star actually looks kind of a little bit taller, maybe a bit more rotund in the face though than Lyra Heartstrings. But then yet again, the people could probably argue and say otherwise. But yet again, they look kind of similar, even with the tail designs a little bit similar as well. I presume Amethyst Star is a little bit more of a slimmer pony on the tail, in tail terms, of course. But yes, this is actually quite nice to getting like another pony themed toy. I would have never expected making it. Of course, yes, I'm a bit lazy because I was just rummaging around just to set up this tiny blue train system. But let me just move on to this book here. And you remember I did the RSPB bird books that I've been looking at for. Actually, it wasn't really that much of an RSPB book. I think it was more of a Collins British bird book. And there was also another bird book, which actually, yes, I presume it had something to do with the ISPB. That was a book that was given away. Actually given away towards me 2 years ago during the COVID pandemic. There's actually 2 books that I actually got. One bought 10 years ago from a gift from an old woman called Linda and Brian though, and of course there's a man called Brian, I guess, but it was pretty nice though, eh? Lovely old chaps to look at for. But let's take a look at this book here. This was actually a book that I got off from a charity shop in Bearwood. This is called The Birds in South Africa. It's actually quite interesting to look at. And I just thought, I might as well just show you, there you go, that is a huge myriad of different images, all the different birds that you can go ahead and take a look at. Be it introduced or native, and they're actually talking about the birds that you tend to see in South Africa, and not only just South Africa, but there's also other birds which have been either introduced or vagrants, in a sense that, there you go, this is actually quite a very dedicated book. Of course, yes, I can tell you that this book here is actually quite amazing. We've got a lot of names there. I've got a lot of, this book here has got a lot of Afrikaans as well, but I don't think they've got Xhosa, as in that language that is like a tongue-clicking language in South Africa, and you've got Zulu. But there you go, this is what it's talking about. Southern Africa, in a sense, it's talking about the different habitats as well. That's the map of different habitats in South Africa, and of course, yes, South Africa is a little bit like Australia, not only because it's in the southern hemisphere, but also because of a very huge variety of climates that it actually has. And it also talks about the various habitats. The various habitats going straight from forests, savannas, fimbos, grasslands, karroos, and deserts, all the way towards, like, bodies of water, like the ocean, seashore, marshlands, rivers, and all sorts of habitats, like estuaries, lagoons, lakes, dams, and pans. It looks pretty amazing. And what you've also got is, you've also got the different bird families as well. Oh look, they've got penguins involved. And then you've also got, the introduction about this book, and it also talks about the family summaries about this book. And once you start to open around this book, there's actually quite a lot of different birds that are pretty much native to South Africa. And there's also some which are vagrants, others which are of course visitors, be it a summer or winter migrant, which are also native. And of course, yes, there's also birds which are introduced, as in, like, minor birds. They're another classic example of a bird species which in a sense they have been introduced or accidental or feral species. But of course, yes, it's very nice to know that we've got, and there you go, there's the anatomy of different birds. I presume that is a gull or a lapwing, I guess. That looks pretty amazing. These are all the different birds. That looks like a pigeon. That looks like a songbird to me. But there's all different kinds of bird parts. That's the anatomy of what a bird looks like. Of course, there's not sure how big of my ornithology skills are like there, because obviously I've been doing a lot of bird watching. There's also talking about the feathers and the parts of the bird. And of course, yes, we'll take a look at all the different birds. Of course, yes, you can go into penguins first. And then, of course, yes, this is actually pretty amazing. I'm seeing all the different birds around here. Of course, you get your grebes, you get your albatrosses, and there's actually different colours on the birds here as well. Now, therefore, I've actually realised the purple really indicates that these birds, I presume, do they actually breed? Or are they more likely, a visitor in winter? I'm actually not really quite certain how to use this book. Maybe those lines there, maybe those patterns there, those checkered patterns would probably indicate either it's a non-breeding bird, or in this case, maybe it's a breeding species. I don't know. It's quite an amazing and complex book as well too. In fact, it's actually fairly nice talking about the different birds residing in the different oceans that you find across, in South Africa, but also the different lands as well. Of course, yes, it's not just the seabirds that are around in South Africa, but you've also got like all kinds of other birds as well too. Like there's semi-aquatic water birds, and you've also got like, of course, yes, you've got like the map on the left-hand corner which talks about where they actually live. And of course, yes, as I can actually be a very fast and wham bam, thank you, no mentary sort of person, I can kind of basically speed through on just basically opening up all the pages. I bet the copyright owners would probably get snappy about what I show on YouTube, but nevertheless, that's just me. Of course, yes. And as I can hold it with my foot, it's actually quite amazing seeing the amount of birds that I have seen or I've never ever seen in my life. even those which have actually not been seen in Africa. Of course, yes, I haven't been to Africa as a person, because I don't have a passport actually, obviously, as it sounds. And they've also got, like, apart from purple shades which indicate that this bird is here, they've also got, like, crosses here, indicating that, you know, the red crosses indicate that this species is a vagrant. Or maybe it could be introduced, I don't know. And there you go, there's also got, like, birds in flight. You know, that's what we all tend to think of. It's quite an amazing, you know, amazing thing to look at. There's all different kinds of birds. You know, birds of prey, water birds, songbirds, seabirds, and wading birds. I mean, how many of those birds can you actually name? There's actually quite a lot of different artworks here as well, though, too. Oh my crikeys, can you believe that? It's, bet you what, this book has actually got a smorgasbord. In fact, Africa, whenever I think of this as a continent, I mean, some people think it's a country, well, it's actually a continent. I'm sorry to prove you wrong, but obviously, you know, this book obviously tells you that Africa has got a very large myriad of different bird species that you can find across the whole continent. And more specifically, this book is actually talking about 7 parts of Africa, be it Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, or South Africa. And it actually is quite a very elaborate type of book. And of course, yes, it's amazing because obviously it gets to show you all the different birds around it though. Okay, you've got, like, you know, game birds, of course, the more chicken-like birds, even peacocks are one of them, but these are really awesome. And I mean, to me, collecting bird books it also emphasises in the world of, you know, nature, in the sense that, it's a very nice thing to heavily invest in. Of course, yes, this is actually fairly nice. I'm not quite sure if there were any other bird theme related books. You know, as I'm making this video, as I'm just basically flicking all the pages in this book, you know, it's actually quite impressive. You know, it also tells you of all the different birds when they're in flight by looking at the different patterns and the different looks as well too. Mind you, that's actually the very best thing I can literally say about these books. They really, you know, as I can definitely say this, you know, they're actually fairly nice. You know, I just can't go wrong with how, you know, amazing these bird books are, you know, because I'm into birds and because I've been doing ornithology for over 10 years or so. It's quite crazy. I mean, I'm just kind of the person who's literally, you know, wanting to be behind in it. And there you go, that's some of the very cool looking synopsis and the different artworks of what these guys are like. These are actually fairly impressive, seeing the birds that are literally in flight. Oh my crikey, so of course there's so many different, you know, bird species to ponder upon, which is actually quite a fantastic feature, and man, I just can't go wrong with it. You know, it's just amazing. I would have never thought that, hey, I'd be this kind of person who think, hey, bird books are, you know, pretty useless. Well, I could probably say otherwise. You know, basically I can keep on checking on what bird species I've been looking at in my life. And mind you, there's like, oh my goodness, there's like hundreds if not thousands of bird species that you can just take a very great big synopsis, because obviously that's one of the best things I could literally talk about in this video. And hey, that's one of the, you know, the best things I can comment about without getting too sad about and start crying about that the Queen is dead. Long live the King, huh? Well, let's just pretty much tone it down to a big level and just think, hey, we're going to start, you know, all over again. Well, we can actually continue that legacy and bring it into a great bigger level that no one else has pretty much ever seen. You know, after the passing of King George VI. That's what I'm thinking of. It's kind of interesting. I would have never thought that maybe the checkered patterns would probably indicate. If I look back to this map, I'll probably guess that the checkered patterns would definitely indicate that this bird is less common, or, you know, maybe it's a wintering species, I don't know. I can keep on check with the many bird species. I can literally flick through the page. You know, there's so many of them. You know, it's unsurprising that as I can actually turn through all the pages without actually breaking or deteriorating this book, which I've only paid it for about Honestly, if I remember the price of this book, I'll definitely say 50 pence. But maybe I would have actually bought it for like, I'll probably, basically, if I can double check the price, I would have actually double checked it and actually stated it would be 25 pence, because obviously this item was half the price of what I paid back in July of 2022. That was actually just around 2 months when we had our hottest summer ever. My crikey's 40 degrees. That was a very shocking temperature. I felt like I was not only just Malaysia but South Africa, and hey, that's what these birds love to, love to basically delve into. A lot of tropical heat. But man, I could say otherwise, because our climate is changing, and yes, don't get me wrong, climate change is really, in fact, another thing to really consider about and to get scared about, because obviously climate change is literally killing us all, but also nature itself as well. And I'm actually quite curious. In fact, I would just feel like, as I'm actually flicking through pages and pages and pages around this book, I might take a look at the glossary and also the index later on, but man, there's just so many here, and I mean, I could just think where to start. I mean, how many birds do I really want to see in this video? I don't know. Oh yes, I love this one, the Indian monitor bird, the common monitor bird. Oh, an infamous species. Oh crikey, that's pretty infamous if you ask me. But yet again, there's like a great big checklist, and you can tick the amount of bird species that you've seen in South Africa or any other part of Africa. And there's also some scientific names, Afrikaans names, a different language, of course, and also some common names as well. All the different bird species that you find. It looks pretty awesome seeing that. And the one disappointing factor about this book is that it's actually been deteriorated. There's actually some kind of rip, so this book might have been damaged when it was actually sold. And man, half the time, even though it was damaged, of course, yes, there's the big blurb and the whole book there, but I'm not going to read the whole of it, because obviously the video is going to be way too long. But there's also a very interesting link there, which links into the birds of South Africa. Maybe this book would have actually been sold in South Africa first. Well, I don't know about you, but I've actually never been quite accustomed to South African content, despite the nature that I'm actually really fond of, in particular wildlife and all that stuff. Yes, it was actually sold for about £1, then I believe it would have been reduced to 50 pence and then reduced down to 25 pence. So I would have actually paid half the price, which would have been quite astonishing, since I would have never thought that, hey, this price would have actually been stayed 50. And I would have actually said to the owner of the store, the charity shop, and just think, is this sale for like 50 pence, or are you actually halving it? And I was actually replied back stating that, no, Ivan, we actually reduced this one down to at least around 25 pence. And I was like, oh my god, crikeys, I didn't expect that. But man, I was actually quite happy just to notice that this book was a very cheap price. Man, oh man, I've never been this so proud though, so far. I'm so glad. I would have never thought I'd be making a video about this book to bring such respite, despite the sorrow nature of what we have today because of the Queen. But anyways, if you really enjoyed this pretty quick and somber, swift video, please give this video a like, subscribe for more flat videos in the future, and as always, thank you so much for watching. And goodbye for now, as long as I can literally respect the Queen. King is dead, the Queen is dead, sorry. Long live the King. I'm sorry to hear about this, but thanks for watching again, and bye for now.